The Indianapolis Colts, a franchise as of late that is forever teetering between promise and frustration. And at the center of it all stands general manager Chris Ballard, guiding the team since 2017. The questions have never been louder. Can he truly build a contender? Or is this just an endless cycle of mediocrity? Ballard has long been praised as a sharp talent evaluator, but praise only goes so far. Yes, he inherited a tough hand. No franchise bounces back overnight from that kind of setback. But in the NFL, results define success. And today, we're pulling back the curtain to have the real conversation about Chris Ballard and why the Colts should have moved on from him years ago. We're jumping right into it. I am going to show you the Chris Ballard evaluation, currently in his 9th year as the Indianapolis Colts general manager. And just for your information, according to Sportsology research, it shows that over the past 5 years, this article was written in 2023, the NFL has the lowest average general manager tenure of any of the big 5 U.S. sports at 2.1 years and the smallest hiring window. All right, let's get right at to it. From the top, Jamal, win-loss record, 70 wins, 75 losses, 1 tie, 2 playoff appearances, 1 in 2018, 1 in 2020. 1 playoff win, coming in Andrew Luck's final year as a Colt and losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round. AFC South Division titles, 0. Notable draft selections and acquisitions. This is a non-exhaustive list. Quentin Nelson, Shaquille Leonard, Grover Stewart, Braden Smith, Tyquan Lewis, Zaire Franklin, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Gilmore, DeForest Buckner, Will Fries, Bernard Ryman, Alec Pierce, Nick Cross, Josh Downs, Jalen Jones, Tyler Warren. Draft or acquisition busts, question marks, or to be determined. Malik Hooker, Paris Campbell, Rocky Sean, Quincy Wilson, Zach Banner, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Robert Windsor, Kwity Paye, Kylan Granson, Sean Davis, Jelani Woods, Anthony Richardson, Julius Brents, Blake Freeland, Darius Rush, Adonai Mitchell, JT Tuimoloau, Sauce Gardner. Key personnel changes during the tenure: Chuck Pagano, Frank Wright, Jeff Saturday, Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, Marcus Brady, Jim Bob Cooter, Matt Eberflus, Gus Bradley, Lou Anarumo, Bo Ventrone, Brian Mason. And after almost 9 years as the Indianapolis Colts GM, Jamal, I turn it over to you and leave you and Colts fans with this one question. What is Chris Ballard's greatest achievement as general manager of the Indianapolis Colts?
Wow. All right. What an introduction. I got to be honest. I did not expect all of that. I was not prepared for all of that. First and foremost, everybody, welcome to the Colts cast. We're here to talk about anything and everything Indianapolis Colts. I am Jamal Lawrence. This is Eric Smith. We are the host of the cast. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a returning listener, returning viewer, you know the drill. Welcome. Hit that like, subscribe button, drop a comment below. Let us know how you feel about this introduction. What we're going to talk about today at the future of this team. Eric, could you repeat your question one more time for me? That burning question. Repeat it for everybody so they can make sure they drop a comment. And I'll put it as a pin comment as well.
That one burning question, yes, I would love for Colts Nation, just in one sentence, a few words, whatever you want to say in the comments if you're on YouTube. What is Chris Ballard's greatest achievement as general manager of the Indianapolis Colts?
If you're asking me, my humble opinion, it's just got to be Jonathan Taylor. This is his greatest achievement. Drafting JT. That's it. I mean, and when I say that's it, I don't mean that like that. I'm not undermining what and who JT is, because everybody knows JT is my dog, day one. But that's my opinion. I mean, out of all the accolades you mentioned, out of all the pros, the cons, all that stuff you mentioned, JT is his highest point for me. What about you?
I would have to say his greatest achievement has been mediocrity. I'll say it in one word. We can spell it out: an endless cycle of mediocrity. I mean, everything on that record spells average. There was good, there was bad, there was ugly. And average doesn't get it done in the NFL. Being mediocre just traps a franchise in a cycle where you're not good enough to contend for a Super Bowl title. Okay, you want to talk about this year when we were 7-1 with Daniel Jones? Okay, that's fine. I think we were good enough then. Once in 9 years, wow, that's really impressive, but not bad enough to rebuild successfully with kind of like a supreme draft capital perspective. So you get frustration, you get the stagnation of the Indianapolis Colts and what it's been since he's been here, and you got a bunch of unfulfilled promises. So I don't know, uninspiring football is another way to put it, Jamal. I think that's the best way to put it. I think this is what Colts fans have had to deal with over the last decade, and I think people are just sick of it. And I know a lot of people are Chris Ballard fans. We are not. We've said it for a while now. This season is not the reason he should be fired. This should have happened years ago. So we're not pinning it on the Daniel Jones demise, torn Achilles, things like that, and how this season is unraveled. This is just a reminder of what should have already been done.
Simply put, I mean, honestly, y'all, I don't know how much more I can add to this because Eric must have caught wind of my notes because he just nailed everything I was going to say. But like he mentioned, this is not an indictment. This is not an indictment off of just this year. This is an indictment off of the past 9 years of what we've seen in this organization from Christopher Ballard. But before we kind of break down, the negative parts, I want to be clear. Eric brought up some great highlights, some great points about what he's did. So the players he's drafted, JT, Big Q, Alec Pierce, Nick Cross, Leonard. I mean, Shaq Leonard. These are names that like they ring bells in this organization. He took a swing at Sauce. It set us back now, but I mean, he took a swing. I commend him for that. He brought in some bigger names as well. Cam Bynum, Ward, even though Ward potentially sounds like he may be retiring at the end of this year based off of his concussion status. I mean, I got to give him credit. He took a swing at that. He did those small things that we asked for. The biggest thing he did for us too, Eric, it kind of goes back to what you mentioned as his biggest hype for us. He did keep us mediocre instead of being the bottom of the barrel because this team could have went down the drain and been the laughing. I mean, for what it's worth, it has been a laughing stock for certain parts of the season, certain parts of these years. But it could have truly been the laughing stock like the Cleveland Browns or so on and so forth for years. But he's managed to keep us mediocre. So I give him credit for that because if I'm going to be anything, if I'm not going to be at the top of the totem pole, I don't necessarily want to be at the bottom. So he's kept us mediocre. He's did that, but that's pretty much where it ends. Everything else for Chris Ballard in this tenure and his era as the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts has been lackluster, subpar, nothing to write home about, nothing anybody cares to hear about, and it's just been filled with excuses and great fluffy talk for the average person. In an organization and a small market team where we have been fortunate to have success over some years during the Peyton Manning days, where everything was just lovey-dovey and cush. You kind of get that extra grace period. Of course, everyone still goes on and on about Andrew Luck and his retirement and all this other stuff. And I get it. That's a sore point, and it will always be a sore point for this fan base. But just because you lose that generational talent doesn't mean you can't try your hardest to bounce back from it. We've saw band-aids over band-aid over band-aid over band-aid over band-aid without cleaning that wound. That wound has become infected. It's been infected for the past 9 years and is now turning into a sepsis event for us because we've watched it. We're in shock. And we don't know what to do anymore. And now we're fighting for our lives the same way Chris Ballard and company is fighting for their lives. Now, some of those lowlights, I think it's very clear we have to talk about that. Eric already mentioned it. No division titles. Other teams in this division has won at least twice. That's still sub 500 record for us. Even with this season being a little bit better, those 2 playoff appearances, not demanding success within this organization, giving us the talks about how, we build within, we like our guys. I want this is our core group. This is how we get better, so on and so forth. Yet not able to produce those things every single year, having the exact same outcome. He just talked about in his presser last January. And you know what, Eric, as well, in that pinned comment with that question, actually may drop that episode from the presser from last year that we did because I think it's a great episode to look back onto where we stand now because we had some We had some misses in there. I'll be honest with you. I had a couple misses in there, and I want to admit that because I want people to understand that this is not just one of those things where we got butthurt after the team was 7-1 and all of a sudden started losing, and now we're like, oh my gosh, pitchforks, pitchforks. No, this has been something that's been going on. So, like anybody or like any right person would, you're gonna admit those faults. I'll admit those faults. I said I thought he wouldn't take a swing, and he did take a swing. However,
Mm,
what really matters is all the things we were right on and how it went. And I'm not talking about how the injuries affected the team. I'm just talking about in general because Chris Ballard even made a point during that presser back in January where he talked about how the team going 8-9 this year in 2025 season will be pretty much an ultimate failure. The way we're looking right now, obviously, I know we still have 3 games left and we have an opportunity to not go 8-9, but we are trending in that direction. Like essentially, what he said would not happen is essentially what's happening. He talked about in that presser as well how about fans should not be satisfied until we get to the Super Bowl,
mm,
until we win that Super Bowl. And I think that's a very important take because going back to that, I said, well, we ain't going to win it in 2025. It ain't going to happen in 26. It ain't going to happen in 27. And legitimately, it will not happen at these points now because we don't have the picks. We don't have the draft capital to do this. We're going to have to start purging people in this on this team if we want to try to bounce back from what we have. So these things, and again, I know that the injury happened. I get that. However, what I'm talking about is we still purge. We still made those gigantic swings for that for Sauce to give up those first round draft picks. And we can sit here and say how at the time everybody was happy. Yes, I still think that, for what it's worth, hindsight's always 2020. If we would have won those games, we'd have said, who cares about those picks? Whatever the case is. My point is this. He talked about last year in that presser how he would not want to basically go all in and set the organization up for failure for years to come. Here we are. We have now set the organization up for failure for years to come because we have a couple years of more purgatory that we have to deal with because we have now given up this draft capital. We have a quarterback who now has to still go through an entire Achilles reheal. And I know it's like 9 to 12 month situation or whatever the case is. He could come back sooner, he could come back later. Don't know. But these are issues where now this back is so far against the wall that we've had to resort to bringing in a 44-year-old quarterback because we don't know what's going on anymore. We don't trust our number 4 pick just got medically cleared. We don't think I'm assuming that they don't think that he's the best option. Our 6th round draft pick from Notre Dame, we don't think he's the best option right now. And I think the reason why they feel like this is the best option for them is to bring in a 44-year-old Rivers because they know their back is against the wall. They know they have to win. Now, do I think that Carly Ursay is going to flat out fire them both at the end of the season? I don't know. I can speculate that because she gave a good talk at the beginning of the season, after the passing of Jim Irsay and how she's going to rule with the iron fist and she expects results and yada, 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 and so on and so forth. But we also have to be very clear that she okayed the Sauce trade. So she understood the magnitude of what that would be. So she has to bear that load and understand that, hey, listen, you gave me the green light to do this. So are you going to penalize me for doing this or not?
mm,
Also, we have to remember that these boys aren't dumb. They brought in Phillip Rivers because their only goal right now is to win. They have to be above 500 because I'm sure there is some ultimatum for missing the playoffs yet again, for being sub 500, for not having any kind of clear pathway for what's going on because they still neglected these things. And I'm going to backtrack here for just a second, Eric, because while we were all hype about the Sauce trade, hype about the Cam Biden, I won't say Cam Biden, but the Ward thing. These are both 2 big issues that while I'm still happy that we made these decisions, even though we haven't had a chance to see these boys on the field together. This comes years late. We watched the neglect over years and years and years and years of not going for this position or going so late in this position and hoping and just hopes that we can figure out a way to get this hungry 5th, 6th, 7th or undrafted free agent into the building to then become that prototypical cornerback 1. We neglected the fact that there have been multiple ones who went in there that we had opportunities to get because we wanted to go for something else that hasn't been successful. Our pass rush, for example. Well, so and we can swing for the fences, and I can nitpick all day long these things and make it sound as bad as I want to, and I'm well aware of that. But the thing I'm trying to get at is that just because we made and by we, I mean Ballard made the decision to try to help better this team, as I mentioned that during that time when his back is so far against the wall, doesn't take away from the fact that we neglected it for year over year over year when these things could have been approached a different way. And I'm not just talking about the quarterback position. I'm talking about every position that's needed help, every position that has lacked over his tenure with him. And that's where this comes in. Um, you know, who's to blame at this point? Like we mentioned, I mean, I think a lot of people at this point want to blame Steichen for this year, and that's fine. We've seen him get too cute with this stuff. We've seen the different things that have gone on. And like I said, this is not Ballard's all on Ballard for this season. But you'd be a liar if you didn't say that he still has some of this blame to take. Sure, I'll put
Well,
majority on Steichen, but go ahead.
I kind of want to just interject a little bit,
Yeah,
and because you brought up a good point, you said neglect from Ballard and how this roster has been constructed, and it made me really think about, okay, so the injuries aren't Ballard's fault, right? But how did you react to them? What did
correct.
you do? So you think about the quarterback position. Daniel Jones is playing at a near MVP level. However, Anthony Richardson is on IR with a freak eye injury. So you lost your QB2, which I still don't believe Anthony Richardson is their QB2. I think Shane Steichen is just done with him. But anyway, he's your QB2 on IR. So you have Riley Leonard back there. You put him in after Daniel Jones. Hold on. You know what? You have Daniel Jones playing on a fractured fibula for a game or two, and you did nothing to address that quarterback position at that time. So it was Riley Leonard as that QB2, which means you had faith in the event something happened, like Daniel Jones overcompensating on his other leg, which possibly attributed to his torn Achilles. You're telling me that was your plan. That's what you're telling the fan base, that Riley Leonard was confident enough to be the backup quarterback if your injury-prone quarterback, who we already know, we already said this, that Riley Leonard's probably going to get some play time this season, could get hurt. So 2 of your quarterbacks could get hurt, and this was your plan all along, had a high injury risk associated with it. I called that neglect because at that point, you should have, as soon as he fractured that fibula, you should have been picking up the phone, and maybe they did. Maybe Phillip Rivers was always the option. But still, looking at it from outside in, that's what I call failure at the top from Chris Ballard, that neglect you were just talking about. And I don't know, man. It irks me the wrong way when fans don't see this, but keep going.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I'm glad you touched on that because I was going to touch on that here in a bit. But literally like just pure neglect with that, and of course because behind the scenes there should have been so many other things going on, and like you said, we're not going to know everything, and that's the reality. We all know that we're not going to know everything. However, when all of a sudden we see Jones go down, and then it looks like it's a head scratcher. Everyone's scrambling. Leonard doesn't look like he's that prepared to be in there. And now you're like, okay, we got to figure this out. What we're going to do. Hey, we're going to work out Phillip Rivers and so on and so forth. I mean, that's just a desperation heave at that point because you don't I don't think they ever truly planned on what would happen in the event that Jones went down. And I'm not saying that you should have to be thinking like that all the time, but Andy Reid's not thinking about Mahomes going down because there's a player who stood the test of time. Of course, now we see he's gone down. Obviously, their season's over, and Nick Sirianni isn't worried about so much. They're probably not thinking so much about Jalen Hurts going down because these guys haven't been injury prone throughout their career. But like you mentioned already, when we talk about a Daniel Jones who has through the test of time has shown that he has a lot of injuries that go on with him, seems like that would have been one of the most immediate things, especially as you just mentioned, Eric, where your backup quarterback was never ready to play anyway. I mean, he's been on IR for God knows how long. So you're right. That was pure neglect in regards to what the full game plan was for that. And it stinks, and when I continue to look at this, I mean, I just don't know. Like we've been one player away for years. We've been hearing this one player away for years. We're gonna figure it out. Well, we tried. Hey, we got a couple things in the building. We're gonna get to it in the base of things. I got to do better. I tried. I failed. I this. I that. And it's just it's so hard and it's so frustrating to continue to still hear these things because
look, I failed. I'm not going to sit up here and make excuses.
But
Talk.
I guarantee this year the excuse would be, well, Daniel Jones went out and so on and so forth and blah, 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 blah. So I have to get into the next point because I think it's super important to talk about this. When we talk about how much this offense was humming at the beginning of the season when it was 7-1, or I should say when this team was 7-1, but the offense was killing the game, 3 times the point differential, the records of these teams matters. Like the longevity records of the teams matter because we were playing some dog crap teams at the time. When I look at those games between the Dolphins, the Titans twice, the Raiders, and the Cardinals, we're talking about an overall record currently for those 4 teams, an overall record of 13-43 right now. 13-43. So, yes, did we beat these teams by 25, 30 points each time? Absolutely. Did we drop 40, 35 points a game with them? Absolutely. But these teams aren't good. We did beat the Broncos, which is a very good team right now. They're sitting at 12-2. As they got better throughout the season, I don't think we could beat the Broncos again. We did beat the Chargers at their house, which I think was a great win. The Chargers right now, 10-4. Obviously, they have a bad offensive line. I'm not going to sit there and take anything away from them. And of course, we lost to the Rams, 11-3. The Rams are firing on all cylinders. They look great. I don't care, how close of a game they play. They look great. So if I were to take those three teams and add their records in there, we're talking about 33-9, across those 3 legitimate teams we played. So yes, you can see those games where it was tough and a challenge for us. We lost 1 out of those 2. Those teams are actually good. So the total out of those 8 games, you're looking at a record of 46-52. So still sub 500 for those teams that we played. My point with all that is saying that the beginning of the season wasn't a true testament of what this team was. We just had the better team that had all the pieces to the puzzle put together from day one. Once we got exposed and against the Steelers, once we got exposed there, it's been all downhill. This team has crumbled bit by bit by bit, going tit to tat with every single team we've played. Obviously, the injury has happened, but before the injury happened, we were still going tit to tat with teams. After the injury happens, after the fib action happens when we were in Berlin for that game against the Falcons.
Falcons.
This injury starts to lurk. Okay, we got to figure some out. We got to step it up. We watch productivity from all of our squad go down, offensive side of the ball. And then, of course, we see Daniel Jones ultimately go down, and we're like, oh, shoot, what do we do? Did we give the Seahawks a good run for their money? Sure. No one cares about that. As we talked about in the Seahawks episode, no one cares about moral victories. Those days are done. I mean, I shouldn't say no one because plenty of people in this fan base still care about moral victories. And that's why they've been so complacent with Ballard just doing enough to squeak by every single year because it's okay because, hey, guess what? We'll get him next year, Tiger. Don't worry about it. Like, no, this is a winning business. You have to win to be successful in this business. Yet we've literally watched someone not win anything and still keep their job. I mean, he has a smooth way of words with these people in the building. He has to because I don't understand how you go to your job unless you're a baseball player whose job it is to hit sub 3 because most baseball players ain't hitting over 300. I mean, if they are, you better pay them $1 billion. But baseball is the only sport where it's okay to be sub 500. Not football, not basketball. I guess basketball, yeah, sure. No one's gonna, always shoot over 50% from the field. But my point is this: in football, where it's a team effort, and you talk about you've put together these rosters and you built from within, yet these rosters still every year manage to crumble for some reason, whether that be injury, whether that be poor play, whether that be coaching. It doesn't matter. The point is these rosters you have built have still managed a way to crumble every single year, yet you still keep them, yet you still build from within, yet you still say it'll happen next year. We'll figure it out next year. We'll figure it out the next time. Like there just doesn't make any sense how you literally said if we have a 9-8 season, we're just one or two games away. But then you said we have an 8-9 season, we are nowhere near where we need to be. Didn't realize that one win made that much of a difference from where this team is a Super Bowl caliber team to can't even scrape the AFC South. So I don't know. Just the inconsistencies across the board have just been the biggest thing for me where we have to realize that it's all just such dumb talk There's never been a plan for this team. Because if we would have executed it by now. If not, we would have cut other people. The only thing we've done in this organization was cut Gus Bradley, cut Frank Reich, and cut a couple of other assistant coaches. Because after a while of just getting bent over, they're like, all right, you know what? Maybe I should get rid of one or two players because it's starting to get a little hot for me. So I don't understand what the game plan for this team is, because there clearly hasn't been one. Oh, we're gonna do it all with D Jones this year. Well, of course, yeah, we don't have a choice. They're gonna have to re-sign Daniel Jones next year, especially with Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen keep their job. Because what else are they gonna do? Now is your only time you're gonna get them for a cheap deal. You're gonna have AR on the books for a couple of years for a cheap deal. I mean, there's no looking up right now. And at this point, the Colts fans who still want Ballard to be here because he's still done his job, I don't know what the definition of doing their job is for you, or what your job is in regards to that. But if you can do that kind of production at work and still keep your job, yo, let everybody in America know, because they may apply for it, because we need more people out there working anyway. So let them go ahead and apply and come in and do sub 50% of their work and still manage to keep their job. So that's kind of where, like, it just really tees me off whenever we have these conversations, because this is not a personal vendetta against this man. Do I like Chris Ballard? No, but I'm just looking at cold hard numbers and productivity of what has come out of this team over the past 9 years, and it has not been success. It just hasn't been. Yet every single year we preach it like, hey man, we were good this year. We were good. We were good enough. We were good enough. And that's the way it has been year over year over year. So I don't know what else they want. I don't know what else could happen. Like I said, do I think Ballard's gone this year? No. But do I think that if anybody in this organization is smart, even if you give him one more year, fine, whatever, who cares? Give him his last year. But at that point, like, people are going to say, well, if you give him 1 year, do you give him the second year, and then now we can try to get rid of him? Then no, can guess what? Because now we're back in the cycle. Now we're just going back in the cycle. At some point, you just have to say, I don't care. I don't care that I'm going to have to bring in somebody who's going to just have to completely clean house across the board, and it's going to suck for 3 years. Because would you rather it suck for 3 years with a new person with the optimism that it can get a little better, or would you rather it suck with the same person who got you to this exact point where you were for the past 9 years, and now you have to deal with it for another 3 years? At the 12-year mark, you have to say, well, hot damn, it still didn't work. It still didn't work. Well, duh, Sherlock Holmes. Why did you expect anything else to change? Nothing has happened this entire time leading up to that. So why should it change now? So that's why you have to move on from this person. Okay. You have to understand that at some point, it's somebody else's time to just come in, wash this thing up, get it cleaned up, because the cleaning crew you got in the building right now ain't getting the job done. The baseboards are still dirty. All right. Get somebody in who knows how to clean up and make this thing look nice and pretty and clean again. Especially if you say you run with this iron fist that you want results, you're results driven, you want to see success in this organization. Now you're in trouble, because AFC South is all of a sudden a lot better now, with the Jaguars humming and the Texans humming. Titans, whatever, neither here nor there. But shoot, before we know it, they're probably gonna pass us at some point. So we've kind of lost this opportunity to say we want to win the AFC South here moving forward, because it ain't looking too hot. So I don't know, Eric. I'm done talking. I'm gonna let you talk for a bit, because I know I've been running it off for a hot minute now. So do your thing, Doc, because I know people tired of hearing me run my mouth.
No, I know a lot of people appreciate that. They were looking forward to this episode, and they were looking forward especially to what you had to say. And I think you got it out pretty concise. I have no argument with that. I mean, this is just an episode with us telling you the facts, us telling you our opinions, and we just let Colts Nation decide. I will talk on one more point, just because I was talking about uninspiring football, what we've had to kind of deal with over the last few years. I mean, even at the beginning of this season, we were like, man, Daniel Jones starting. Oh, man. Yes, we were wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
Played really well, but it's just this roller coaster of emotions that there's never really a clear goal set. You think about the Kansas City Chiefs, how they drafted Patrick Mahomes in 2017. They let him sit for a year. They paired him with Andy Reid. They became a dynasty. You think about the Philadelphia Eagles. They rebuilt quickly after Chip Kelly's departure. Jalen Hurts, elite draft selections, won a Super Bowl. Boom, always contending. Buffalo Bills, Drafted Josh Allen in 2018. Did not give up on him. He looked really bad in his rookie year. Didn't look that much better in his second year, but developed him into a perennial MVP caliber quarterback, built a strong roster around him. Now they're playoff contenders every single year. They play meaningful football every week with a clear goal set. You think about the San Francisco 49ers. They rebuilt through the draft after missing huge on Trey Lance. Huge. That was a huge trade. Trey Lance is a backup quarterback right now. Surprised he's not in Canada right now. No QB instability there, just like the Colts have dealt with over the last 9 years. But had great roster depth, elite coaching. Again, playoff contenders every single year with multiple Super Bowl appearances and divisional and conference championships. Most of these rebuilds have centered around finding a franchise quarterback and pairing him with the right coach. Chris Ballard tried that with Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson. Look how that's going. Took Ballard 5 years to draft a quarterback after Jim Irsay gave him an ultimatum. He was about to put another Band-Aid quarterback in place if that didn't happen. And look, you drafted Anthony Richardson. You knew he was a project, and look what that's turned out. Mediocrity, I will say, is worse than being bad in the NFL. Bad teams, like you said, Jamal, they have a clear direction. They know what they need to do. And yes, it sucks for those 3 years. But dang, look at the New England Patriots right now. Humming, baby. Yes, they just lost to the Bills, but boy, it looked like Tom Brady is back in that stadium in Gillette. Mediocre teams don't. We waste seasons in purgatory. We have nothing to look forward to because we know at the end of the day that this franchise is not going anywhere significant with Chris Ballard at the helm. Comes up short every single year. Think about every single year that's been. And somehow, some way, a Colts fan gets reeled back in and saying, man, this ain't his fault. Not this time. It's just, like, again, you can say it was injuries this year. You could say it was Anthony Richardson last year or some other excuse. Drop pass by Tyler Goodson the year before. Jeff Saturday the year before. More injuries the year before. Frank Wright. It doesn't matter because, Jamal, who's the common denominator in all of this?
Ballard, Christopher.
Oversees all football operations, roster construction, scouting, drafting, free agency, contracts, salary cap management, coaching staff, voice of the front office. One person that does that in the NFL. That is Chris Ballard. And that is why we believe he should have been gone years ago.
Man.
But maybe, Jamal, maybe we're completely off base on this.
Maybe.
And it's just an opinion.
Maybe.
Just us offering our opinion on the Colts franchise and Chris Ballard. But that's all I got, Jamal.
That's it for me, man. And like we said, if you have made it this far, first off, appreciate you making it this far. Second off, drop your comments, positive, negative. It don't matter, because this is what I want to hear. The people who think that he should remain here. I need to know why you feel this way. I need to. And I don't want to, and it's one of those things where I've read people say, oh, we're cursed. Well, we don't live in Louisiana. Like, this isn't a voodoo spell. Like, we're not cursed. Poor play or poor management may be a correct answer, but this isn't a hex that they put on us. They don't have a little voodoo doll poking Chris Ballard every week. So I want to know, like, what people think about what we have to say, or whether or not they agree, disagree. And it's fine if you disagree. It's fine. I don't care, but just, like, explain to me why you disagree or agree with what we have to say, because we want to know. We wouldn't bring the energy and bring the content to you if we didn't want to hear your thoughts about it. So drop a comment and let us know if you made it this far.
We appreciate anyone listening this far. I mean, this is over 30 minutes worth of content. Really appreciate you, Colts Nation. We're going to continue delivering content no matter how bleak it gets. We believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or at least I do. Yeah,
there's always.
That's going to be it for us, Colts Nation. Thank you for listening to the Colts Cast. This exclusive, really, I think we did a pretty good job, Jamal, on this episode.
Agree.
live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Any platform you use to listen to podcasts. We'll be back next time to give you some more Indianapolis Colts content. Y'all, take care.
Take it easy.